Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat pranams. So we'll begin. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Precharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We welcome everyone to our study of Srimad Bhagavatam at the level of Bhakti Vaibhava, and we're studying Canto 6, chapter number 12 and 13. We're hearing about the appearance of Vrtrasura. Vrtrasura, the hero of the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the heroes anyway of Srimad Bhagavatam. Vrtrasura, he's an asura, but he's in the asura body, but actually he's a great devotee. And we were hearing, in the last class, we heard about his wonderful qualities, how he was able to be on the battlefield facing Indra, and he was speaking about the glories of devotional service. Surprisingly enough, although he's a demon, and at least in a very demoniac body, he was glorifying the process of devotional service. And he was also rebuking Indra. And he was rebuking even his own side. In the beginning, his own side, the demons, they all ran away. They didn't want to stay and fight. He told them, don't be cowards. So Vrtrasura is confronting Indra, Lord Indra. And the last class we were hearing his wonderful qualities. He was talking about he wanted to be a servant of the servants of the Lord. And he wanted that he could go to he didn't want to go to the higher planets. He didn't want any place in the material world. He didn't even want to go to Brahmaloka. He wanted to go to the abode of the Lord and to be the servant of the Lord. He wanted to follow devotees like Narada Muni. And so he was praising devotional service in this way. So let me put on this new chapter, we're going to hear how Vrtrasura confronts Indra. Of course, Vrtrasura, he wants to die. He wants to give up his body. He's willing because he knows first of all that the Lord had given the weapon, the thunderbolt weapon had been given by Lord Vishnu to Indra. And Lord Vishnu had told Indra that this weapon can kill Vrtrasura. So Vrtrasura knew this, and he didn't mind. He thought, this will be good. I'll give up this demon body, just like you have these bodies. So difficult body. He had such a terrible, horrifying body. It's a real demoniac body. Not easy. Just like we see the elephants. We know in the Gajendra Moksha also, Gajendra also wanted to give up his body. He said, oh, don't leave me in this body. Let me get out of this body. So we get so attached to the material body. All of our bodies, whether it's the body of an elephant or a demon like Vrtrasura, we're all in the material world. We have these material bodies. They're disgusting things. But we get very attached to them. We spend a lot of time and a lot of money trying to make them look good and decorate them. But the body is just a disgusting thing. We should develop the mood like Vrtrasura, that we want to go back to be with the Supreme Lord, to get out of this material world. So Vrtrasura understood that he has a chance here in his battle with Indra. Indra's got the appropriate weapon and he can kill Vrtrasura with it. But Indra is reluctant to use it. In the beginning, he was thinking, that, well, he had tried another weapon and it didn't work, so he thought the thunderbolt may not work. But Vrtrasura encouraged him that, no, you can kill me with this weapon. Don't doubt, that weapon can kill me. Lord Vishnu gave it to you. It will do the job, you just have to use it. So Vrtrasura is speaking to Indra, and he wants Indra to develop the proper mood on the battlefield. What should be the mood? Performing duty. Vrtrasura has the mood that he's performing his duty as the servant, as his service to fight. Vrtrasura's mood is, I am Indra's enemy. That was the yajna which was done by Twasta to create the demon Vrtrasura. So Vrtrasura has that mood that I have to be Indra's enemy. But at the same time, he knows Indra is going to kill him. But he wants to do his duty, to be the enemy of Indra. Enemy means give him a good fight, have a good fight. So Vrtrasura is facing Indra there on the battlefield. Let's look at the text here. Okay, chapter 12, yeah. Okay, Vrtrasura's glorious death. Glorious death, right? We said for a hero, it's either to die in mystic yoga or to die on the battlefield. So, we'll see how Vrtrasura meets death. So Sukadeva Goswami says here, Vrtrasura considered death in the battle preferable to victory. Yeah, definitely preferable. Because Vrtrasura is a devotee. He knows that when he's killed, he'll go back to Godhead. Why should he want to stay in that demonic body? Better to give up that demon body and go back to Godhead, where he can engage fully in the service of the Lord, in the kingdom of the Lord. So Vrtrasura begins to fight. He wants to get Indra involved in the battle. So Vrtrasura throws his mace he throws his trident at Indra. Right? And how does Indra react? Who's read the text? Someone? How does Indra react when the trident, Vrtrasura's trident, is coming towards him? Yes, Maharaji.
He used his thunderbolt Maharaj to counteract that, which is more powerful than the trident which is used by Vṛtrāsura.
Right. And what did he do with his thunderbolt?
Thunderbolt made Vṛtrāsura's trident into pieces, Maharaj.
Right, he cut the trident of Vrtrasura into pieces. Right, it all became dust. And then what else did he do? What else did he cut with his thunderbolt?
He cut off his hand.
Cut off his arm. His arm, cut off his whole arm, right from the shoulder. Right, and we're told his arm was thick, it was like Vasuki, the snake. It was as thick as Vasuki. Yes? What did you say? Nothing? Okay, so he cuts off one arm and he leaves, that cuts off his right arm, right? So Vrtrasura is left with one arm. So, is Vrtrasura disturbed, losing one arm? How does he react? What is the mood of Vrtrasura? He is detached from the body. He knows this body is just simply the dress. He's not worried about his body. He lost an arm. He's not worried about it. He goes on talking. And he's talking to Indra, preaching to him about devotional service, telling him the glories of devotional service. So, Vrtrasura lost one arm, he's still got another arm. So Vrtrasura fought back and he struck Indra on the jaw with an iron mace. And he also struck Indra's elephant, Airavrata. And as a result of this, Indra dropped the thunderbolt from his hand. He dropped his cherished weapon, which had been made from the bones of the Dichi and made by Vishwakarma, so that Indra could use it to kill Vrtrasura. But he dropped it. So when he dropped his thunderbolt, all the demigods were watching, and they saw the danger that, they were impressed when they saw Vrtrasura, that he was so powerful, that even after losing one arm, he could still fight back. He didn't give up fighting. He's going forward. Right? The Kshatriya's mood. They have to die going forward. They cannot die retreating. Prabhupada tells the story about that one king. He came home. He went to war and he came home alone. He lost all of his army and he came home. And when he came back to his palace, He couldn't get in the palace. The door was locked. So he called out to his queen that, I'm your husband, I've come home. I've been defeated. I've lost my army. I've come home defeated. The queen wouldn't open the door. She said, you cannot be my husband. My husband doesn't come home defeated. Either he dies on the battlefield or he's victorious. But he doesn't come home defeated. You must be some imposter. Go away. I'm not opening the door. So this is a story about the Kshatriya, indicating that what is the expected nature of the Kshatriya, that he will die on the battlefield rather than go home defeated. And he will die going forward. So Vrtrasura's lost one arm, but he's not giving up fighting. He's coming forward, and he's got his left arm, and he's got this mace, and he uses it to strike Indra, causing him to drop his thunderbolt, and he hits the elephant as well. So the demigods are really worried. Indra was practically defeated, was very much ashamed, Prabhupada writes. He dared not pick up the weapon again. Vrtrasura, however, encouraged him, saying, no, take up your thunderbolt, kill your enemy. This is not the time to lament your fate. How merciful this Vrtrasura is, that he's not thinking, now I'm going to kill Indra, he doesn't have that weapon. Vrtrasura wants to die, he doesn't want to live. He wants Indra to kill him, so he encourages Indra, pick up your weapon. And Vrtrasura starts to preach to Indra, and he starts to tell him about the importance, the right mode which he should have in fighting, what he should actually understand, right? What should be the mode? It's like a little Bhagavad Gita here in this chapter. It's like, you know, what we have in the first section of the Bhagavad Gita, those first 6 chapters, where Lord Krishna is explaining about karma yoga. So Vrtrasura is talking to Indra, and he wants him to understand. Well, what's the main point of Vrtrasura preaching to Indra? What does he want to impress on Indra? We'll ask the devotees. Some of you have read the text.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, he wanted Indra to do his duty.
Okay, so the importance of performing his duty, the sense of duty, yes. Anything else?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Yeah.
everything is under the control of the Lord.
Yes, right. That everything is under the control of the Lord. Everything means victory or defeat. That is under the control of the Lord. It is not that we do anything. We cannot do anything really ourselves. Everything is done by the grace of the Supreme Lord. And it is just foolish to think that we're the doer. So Vrtrasura speaks about how the Supreme Lord is the original cause of everything. And it's the Supreme Lord who's always victorious. We're not always victorious. Sometimes we win, and sometimes we lose. But the Lord, He's always victorious. And He is the real cause of everything. So we are all under his control. And Vrtrasura, in order to describe this more fully to Indra, he describes how the Lord is the cause of creation. Not only is he the cause of creation, but he is also the cause of maintenance of the whole cosmic manifestation, and he's the cause of destruction. So he's the cause of everything which takes place in this world. It's all going on under his direction. And it is just foolish for us to think that we can do anything. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, that the Lord gives orders to material nature, and she arranges facilities for the living entity. The living entities are not independent, although they foolishly think themselves the doers, karta. So kartahamiti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul thinks he's the doer, Prabhupada quotes. That's our illusion. But then the verse goes on to say everything is done by the modes of nature. But we should understand the modes of nature are also under the control of the Lord. As Prabhupada said, the Lord gives orders to material nature, and she arranges facilities for the living entities. So it's not material nature which is supreme, but it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is controlling the material nature, which is supreme. And he's the cause of everything. And Vrtrasura is impressing this point on Indra. So victory or defeat is not ours, but it's the arrangement of Krishna. He decides who should be victorious and he should be defeated. We may say, well, it's all due to our karma, right? But sometimes we think, well, somebody's got good karma, somebody's got bad karma. Yes, to some extent karma is there, but the results of the karma are given by the Supreme Lord. It's Krishna's desire which particular karma we get. Because we have so much karma over many lifetimes, and we have karma every moment. More karma is coming on us. So which particular karma, which particular karmic results are coming on us? That's the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. It's not just only karma, but it's the desire of the Supreme Lord. We have to understand this point. And Prabhupada writes here, as Martin read, one should fully depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is responsible for the victory and defeat of all living entities. The Lord advises, Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo hiya karmanaha. Perform your prescribed duty, for action is better than inaction. Sometimes we hear the philosophy of karma mimamsa. Right? Karma mimamsa. This philosophy is sometimes advocated, and the thinking the thinking is that karma is supreme. Is karma... Have you heard this philosophy before? Who presented this philosophy of karma mimamsa?
Guru Maharaj, Krishna in Govardhan Leela, even he was saying to Nand Maharaj's philosophy.
Yes, what was he saying to Nanda Maharaj?
That people get... we don't need to worship anybody. We'll be depending on our activities itself. We can get the rainfall, and so there is nobody needing to be worshipped for that.
Yeah, you don't need to do Indra Yagya and we'll get the results. So, Can you give some examples to prove that this philosophy of karma mimamsa is not actually reality? What did Prabhupada say about it in that text in there in Govardhan Leela? Prabhupada gives a couple of examples to defeat this karma mimamsa theory, that karma is supreme. Anybody know? How could you defeat this idea that it's all karma? We could just sit back and do nothing. It's all karma. If it's going to happen, it will happen. Yes, Maraji?
Hare Krishna. In purport, no, Prabhupada told, according to Vaishnava, actually, Supreme, nobody is the original cause of one's birth or death. No one is independent, only Supreme God of Supreme Personality of Godhead is independent person.
Yes. But there's a couple of examples Prabhupada gives, specifically pointing out that karma is not supreme. It comes in the Govardhan Leela passage there. In the Krishna book it's mentioned. One example is that one may have a son. The mother and father do everything they can to bring up the son to be a good son. They give him a good school, they spend a lot of money for his education, they buy everything for him to keep him happy, and they're thinking our son will be very nice. But the son may grow bad, he may be bad, he may develop bad qualities. Even though the parents did everything they could to bring him up to be good, it may not happen. Right? I hope you don't have experience like that. But sometimes it happens. You know, mother and father, they really want their son, their child to be good. They do everything they can. It may not happen. It's not just only, what the parents do. Even we see Bhaumasura. Bhoma was the son of Bhumi when she was picked up by Lord Varaha. But Bhoma became a demon. And ultimately he had to be killed by the Supreme Lord Krishna. So one example is the child like that, who grows bad despite the good intentions of the mother and father. Another example is you have a diseased person and he goes to doctor and he spends a lot of money on the medicine. He goes to the best doctor, he gets the best possible doctor to treat him, and he gets the best possible medicine, everything, and still they can't cure the disease and the person dies. Sometimes like that. I had the experience, I was in Calcutta, we were doing life membership. This was many years ago now, but we were going to meet different businessmen doing life membership. So one of our very good members, he went to America. He was to get heart operation, bypass or something like that. So he went to America, he went to Texas, very best hospital, the best doctors, and still he died. He never came home. He left the body. So sometimes it happens like that. You make all arrangements, you try to do everything, but still doesn't happen. We could say that this is karma, but you're doing everything you can to do it right, but still you don't get the result you want. So karma is not supreme. It's all ultimately arranged by the will of the Supreme Lord. And we have to recognize that whatever happens is the will of the Lord. Of course, when things go nicely for us, then we may give credit to the Lord. But when things go bad for us, we will wonder, oh, why could Krishna do this to me? Why did this happen to me? Why Krishna's done this to me? Like this, we have difficulty. When things go bad, when there are reverses, it's hard for us to understand that this could be the Lord. Because we're thinking, I'm a good person. I never did anything wrong. I'm good. And some years ago, there was a famous book which was published in America. It was written by a man from the Jewish religion. He was actually a rabbi in the Jewish church. So he had a son born with a very terrible disease. And he was really, it was really hard for him to deal with the fact that his son could be born with this terrible disease. So he wrote a book. The book was called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. Why bad things happen to good people. And of course, he didn't speak of that it's the will of God. But it's interesting that everybody thinks, I'm a good person. I'm good. I didn't do anything to deserve this. But Vrtrasura, he's not like this. He's very special, right? He's not thinking, why have I got this demon body? No. He's just thinking to get out of the demon body. He's not trying to be happy in the body. He wants to get out of it. So one should fully depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Perform your prescribed duty. Action is better than inaction. And Prabhupada writes at the end of the purport here, this verse is very instructive for sincere workers in the Krishna consciousness movement. We should not be jubilant in victory or morose in defeat. We should make a sincere effort to implement the will of Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we should not be concerned with victory and defeat. Our only duty is to work sincerely so that our activities may be recognized by Krishna. So Prabhupada is telling us this is very important instruction for all of us. We should try to develop this mood. Don't be attached to results. Of course, when we get good results, we rejoice, we're very happy. But at the same time, often things go against us. Often we're defeated. Sometimes money is taken, we lose a lot of money, or we're dealing with we have to try to purchase a property, or we're selling a property, and it goes all wrong, and we end up losing, we don't gain. And so we have to try to do our best for the service of Krishna, at the same time depend on Krishna. We want to try to distribute Krishna consciousness, to give Krishna consciousness as many people as possible. But don't be attached to the results. Rather, try to perform our duty, that this is what Krishna wants, that we're supposed to do this. Just like we go on Sankirtan. We go out on Harinam Sankirtan. And sometimes it may not be very ecstatic. Sometimes we may not be so blissful. We may not be feeling so much ecstasy. But we do it. It's our duty. It's our duty to give the holy name. It's our duty to do service for Krishna. perform our duty in such a manner that we may be recognized by Krishna. I remember one devotee was in Delhi, and it was really a struggle. It was really difficult. This was early 1970s. No other devotees wanted to stay in Delhi. Everybody thought Delhi, oh, terrible. Terrible place, terrible city, Delhi. So very hot in the summer and so very cold in the winter. And of course, nobody speaks English hardly in Delhi. It's a Hindi-speaking city, and devotees didn't know the language. They're not very familiar with everything. Nobody really liked to stay. One devotee was staying there, and he was also having difficulty. He wrote to Prabhupada that, you know, Prabhupada, I don't know if I should stay here. But Prabhupada encouraged him, and Prabhupada wrote back to him and said, you should always think that Krishna has a plan for you. So this is a good point, a very important point, that we should always think that Krishna has some plan for us and try to be surrendered to Krishna's plan. What does Krishna want us to do? Just perform our activities in such a manner that is recognized by Krishna. So then, Vrtrasura gives a wonderful example. He's talking about how Krishna is ultimately the doer of everything, and he's describing how the whole material manifestation is under him. He gives an example here. He said, just like little birds caught in a net, who cannot move independently. So we're in that situation. We're like little birds caught in a net. We're in these planets in the material world. We cannot do anything. We're very restricted. What can we do? And Prabhupada in his purport brings out the difference between the demons and the devotees. Right? What's the difference? The difference between the demon and the devotee?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, the devotees knows that everything happens by the will of the Lord. And asuras cannot see the plan of the Lord in anything.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. The demons, they cannot understand the plan of the Lord. But the devotee, the devas, the devotees, they can see that nothing can happen without the plan of the Lord. It's all His plan. So it's all His doing. So at the end of the purport, Prabhupada said, whether we are defeated or victorious, the Supreme Lord is always victorious. Everyone acts under His directions. So Vrtrasura is speaking like this. Foolish people, they're thinking they're the cause of their activities. They're thinking by my intelligence, I have made all this money, I have become a rich man, I'm powerful, I have got position, I have got power, all my doing. But it's not really our doing, it's by the grace of Krishna, in accordance with our karma as well. And in text number 10, another example is given, the wooden doll. A wooden doll cannot move, or even a grass animal made of grass and leaves, they cannot move. But if somebody pulls the strings, like puppets, they can move. So we're like that. We're all like puppets under the control of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada quotes a couple of powerful verses, one from CC and the other from Brahma Samhita, how Krishna is a real controller of everyone and everything. And then Vrtrasura goes on to impress more about the supreme position of Krishna as a controller is that the three Purushas, the Karanodakashayi Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Shirodakashayi Vishnu, and all the elements of the material nature, they cannot do anything without the direction of the Supreme Lord. The Lord has to be there behind everything. Otherwise, nothing can happen. So even you may be Mahavishnu, you can't do anything without the sanction of the Supreme Lord behind them. Ultimately, it's all happening under Krishna's direction. So we shouldn't be foolish to think we're the doers. Vrtrasura goes on to describe more about fools, what is their mood. He talks, Prabhupada brings up the Karma Mimamsa philosophy. He said, according to the conclusion of the philosophy known as Karma Mimamsa, one's karma or previous fruitive activity is the cause of everything, and therefore there is no need to work. Those who arrive at this conclusion are foolish. And Prabhupada gives an example. A father creates a child. He does not do so independently. It is induced. He is induced to do so by the Supreme Lord. Ultimately, it's all Krishna's doing. We are just simply instruments in His service. The Supreme Lord is the original cause of one's birth. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the cause of one's being killed. No one is independent. Everyone is dependent. The true conclusion is that the only independent person is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? We have some little bit of independence. We can choose between Krishna and Maya. We have that choice. A little choice, a little independent. But Krishna is supremely independent. He is Swarat. And Srimad Bhagavatam is described like that in the very first verse. Swarat, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully independent. So we should understand whatever happens is the mercy of the Lord. Sometimes He gives us and sometimes He takes. Prabhupada said, it's not good to be falsely puffed up, saying that by one's own effort one has become opulent, learned, beautiful, and so on. All such good fortune is achieved through the mercy of the Lord. In the previous chapter also we found Vrtrasura speaking about this to Indra. He was talking about how the Lord is not going to give too much opulence to His devotees because He knows how contaminating it is. The more opulence, the more material wealth they have, then the more contaminated they become. So the Lord is very kind, and He protects the devotees from that contamination. But sometimes the Lord will give this kind of wealth where there's a special need for His service. So devotee simply has to work, and depending on the Lord to see what is the plan. What does Krishna want? What condition does He want to put me in? Just like Krishna put Sudama in condition of great opulence. Because Sudama he didn't want opulence. Krishna put him in that opulence to make him detached from the opulence. So that then he can go back to Godhead. So Krishna puts us in all these different situations just to help us to get closer to Him, to become more surrendered, and to understand how He is actually the doer. Then Prabhupada gives another example, nice example, how the Lord is like someone with 10 arms. You know, there's 8 directions, and then there's up and down. So He has arms in every direction, everywhere. So if he wants to give us with his arms, he can give us so much. And when he wants to take, he can take also everything. So we're helpless. We just simply have to surrender. Either in opulence or in distress, we are not independent. Everything is dependent on the sweet will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Will. One should therefore maintain oneself in equilibrium without anxiety. Vṛtrasura, he's preaching like that. Remember, he's just had his arm cut off. And he's talking about we should be in equilibrium without anxiety. Now, anybody else who's in that situation, they'd be in so much anxiety. But Vṛtrasura is showing he's really detached from the body. Just like Srila Prabhupada in his final days when he was there, and not days, it was months. Prabhupada was so detached from the body. He was, just skin and bones. He could not hardly move. But he was never complaining. He was always preaching. And you can see how he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam, even though he was in that condition. He was really detached from the material body. Similarly, Grandfather Bhishma, the departure of Grandfather Bhishma, how it's described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Grandfather Bhishma is on the bed of arrows, but he's not complaining. He's equipoised. He's detached. Very, very great devotees. Only very great souls can achieve that kind of position. So then Vṛtrasura brings up the subject of the three modes of nature. And he describes that these three modes of nature, they're not qualities of the soul. Our soul is not in the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance. Our soul is always transcendental. So one who actually is a pure soul, he will be detached. He won't be influenced by these qualities. Goodness, passion, ignorance. Passion, just the desire to enjoy. Ignorance, just laziness and madness. And goodness, we're just interested in knowledge. We like to enjoy the knowledge. So, Prabhupada talks about how material life is like in a hurricane. Just as in the hurricane of the material world, we can be very disturbed. But a liberated person will just tolerate. He won't get caught up. He won't be influenced by everything. He should receive everything as the mercy of the Lord. Remain steady in all circumstances. Right? How do we remain steady? What do we have to do? Simply, we have to chant the holy name. We have to take shelter of Krishna. Right? Worship the Lord. Take shelter of your deities. Go to your altar and pray to the deities. We just become more Krishna conscious. The more there's a hurricane, the more there's turmoil in the material world, the more there's COVID everywhere, we just surrender to Krishna. Whatever you want, Krishna, I'm yours. Whatever you want. Prabhupada said the real qualification of the liberated soul is that he remains Krishna conscious, undisturbed by the actions and reactions of the material energy. So this pastime of Vṛtrasura is a wonderful instruction for us and how one can tolerate and one can remain undisturbed. So Vṛtrasura preaches to Indra, he said, just look at me. He said, I've already been defeated. My weapon, my arm have been cut to pieces. He said, I'm trying my best to fight. I'm not morose. Right? If you're morose, you cannot be in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada told his servant. Prabhupada had one servant. This one servant, he was serving Prabhupada. It was at the time the Americans were supposed to be going to the moon, and they were watching they'd watched it on television, the astronauts, so-called astronauts go on the moon landing, and Prabhupada laughed and said, "This is not the moon." So Prabhupada's servant was a young American man, and he couldn't really believe this. He had difficulty to accept this. So he became very morose because he was thinking, oh, so wonderful, we went to the moon, oh, it's so wonderful. And Prabhupada said, no, it's bogus, it's all nonsense, it's not the moon. And so the young man became very morose. So Prabhupada told this one man, he said, you cannot be in Krishna consciousness if you are morose. Because the Krishna conscious person, he should be Prasanna Atma. He is a joyful soul. He should not be morose. Moroseness means we are influenced by the modes of nature. So don't be overwhelmed by the material energy. So Vrtrasura tells Indra, give up your moroseness and continue fighting. So this is like Bhagavad Gita, you know, Krishna is telling Arjuna, duty, detached work, right? Karma yoga is not just doing your duty, but do it with detachment. That is the challenge. It's all right to do our duty, but we have to do it with detachment from the result. That is very difficult. Karmani eva adhikaraste. People like that part. You have a right to perform your duty. They don't like the other part. Mapali shu kadachana. You're not entitled to enjoy the fruit of your activity. That is difficult. Never be attached to performing your duty, and never be attached to not performing your duty. And never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of action. So detached work is actually karma yoga. And this is what Vrtrasura is encouraging Indra, that, you know, you're supposed to be detached. We're not the doers, we're simply the... Well, he'll give another example which is coming up, a very nice one. So, Prabhupada writes in the purport, one should perform his duty under all circumstances, even though one may know what the result will be. So one may know that, you know, like Vrtrasura, he knows he's going to be killed, but he's still doing his duty. He's not worried about it. He's detached. That is just like sometimes we go for preaching and we know people are not very interested, but still we have to do our duty. We have to preach. Sometimes they arrange public programs and we have to go in front of an audience and you have to talk about Krishna consciousness and introduce the mantra. And we know they're not very interested, but we have to do it. It's duty. And sometimes we go and we distribute prasadam. People are not very interested. They just simply want to fill the belly. They're not real. But we have to do it. We have to do our service for Krishna. That's the mood. Don't be attached to the result, but be attached to service, that we want to please Krishna by service. Oh, here's a nice example. Text 17 here. right? Vṛtrasura gives the example. He said, just like a gambling match. This battle is a gambling match. Our lives are the stakes. Right? Gambling. Just like people are gamblers, they're addicted to gambling. You know, you become addicted to these things sometimes. You can't stop gambling, even though you know you're going to lose. Just like casinos. You go to the casino, everybody knows they're going to lose. But still people go. They're so addicted, they cannot stop. Right? They go to the casino. How many people ever win? They go to the casino. Do you know anybody who ever won a lot of money at the casino? Everybody loses. They all go there, they all lose their money, but still they go. So many people. So, you know, that's the addict. So here, Vrtrasura is using similar example. He said, a gambling match. And he said, and the stakes, it's not money, but the stake is our lives. And the arrows are the dice. Interesting example. The animals are the carriers. The animals are the game board. No one can understand who will be defeated and who will be victorious. It all depends on providence. Providence. The gopis also talked about providence. They said, oh Providence, you are so cruel because you're taking Krishna away from us. The gopis feeling separation from Krishna. They blamed Providence that Krishna was leaving them. So here, Vṛtrasura said, it all depends on providence. So this is the words of Vrtrasura. And King Indra, you know, how does King Indra react after hearing all this? What does he think? Anyone? How is Indra going to... Yes?
Indra was wondering how, being born in a demoniac family, how Vrtrasura could speak like this.
Yes. He's wondering how and Prabhupada gives examples like who was born in demoniac family but were devotees?
Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj.
Right. And how did they become devotees?
Prahlad Maharaj by the association of Narada Muni.
Right. From the association with Narada Muni. When he was in the womb, right? He had association with Narada Muni. What about Bali Maharaj? How did he become a devotee?
He became a devotee because of Prahlad Maharaj's kripa.
Yes, very good. Right. You have to get the association of a devotee. You want to be... Nobody becomes a devotee without the mercy of a devotee. Nobody gets back to Godhead without the mercy of a devotee. No way. We cannot do it independently. We need to get the mercy of a devotee. So, Vrtrasura, Indra's thinking, how is this Vrtrasura? How has he got it? Where did he get his devotion from? Of course, Indra is not so aware of the previous life of Vrtrasura. But that will come out in future chapters. We'll hear more. All right, so Indra is very impressed to hear these words of Vrtrasura. King Indra praised him and again took the thunderbolt in his hand. Without bewilderment or duplicity, he smiled and spoke to Vrtrasura as follows. So Indra said, I see by your discrimination and endurance in devotional service, despite your dangerous position, that you are a perfect devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul and friend of everyone. How is it possible that Vrtrasura could be such a good devotee? What was it that inspired Indra, which convinced Indra he must be a devotee? Yes?
In spite of being in so much trouble with his hand got cut, and he was still teaching Indra that you should do your duties and be detached to the results.
Right.
And have full faith in the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Prabhupada said, Indra was surprised to see Vrtrasura undisturbed, was fixed in devotional service to the Lord. For such a mentality is impossible for a demon. However, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, anyone can become an exalted devotee. Striyo Vaishyas tata sudras tepi yanti param gatim. An unallied devotee is sure to return home back to Godhead. Yeah, anybody can become a devotee, right? What's some other verses describing how anybody can become a devotee? Anybody?
Maharaj?
Yes?
Shatkarma nipuno vipro mantrastantra visharada. Is that correct, Maharaj?
But that's about who can become a guru, right? Or a
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. But there's one verse which talks about people from sinful races. Prayers by Sukadeva Goswami.
Maharaj, api chetsu duracharo.
Okay. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace.
Shipram bhavati dharmatma.
But there's one verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, the prayers of Sukadeva Goswami, and he describes people from different sinful races. Kirita Hanandra Palinda Pukasha, Abira Shumba Yavana Kashadaya, Yanyecha Papa Yadapashraya Shraya, Sujanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. Right? Even all different types of sinful races, they can all be delivered by the mercy of the devotee. So by the mercy of the Prabhavishnave Nama, by the mercy of a devotee, all these sinful races can all be delivered.
Guru Maharaj, is there like one more verse in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that Lord Chaitanya says Krishna Bhakti te nahi jati kuladi vichar, like any jati, any kul, they can become Krishna devotees.
Right. Yes. Yes, there are many verses like this. Lord Chaitanya, of course, always speaks about this, yeah. Okay, so Indra's surprised, though, it's a shock that such a big demon, certainly, you know, the form, the appearance is so demoniac, and he's fighting as well on the side of the demons, he's with all the demons, but still he's speaking about devotion. So this is the incredible thing. So two devotees having a fight, and who's going to win? And what does it mean to win? What does victory mean? Victory means to stay in the material world. That is defeat. To stay in the material world is like being defeated. The real victory is the one who goes back to Godhead. So we'll see how Vrtrasura, he is actually the victor, because he's able to get free of his material body and go back to Godhead. So Indra glorifies Vrtrasura that you've overcome the illusory energy, you've given up the demonic mentality, you've attained the position of an exalted devotee. Yeah, he's completely fixed. He's fully in the mode of goodness. Yeah, here's that verse. You can see that verse which we quoted from Sukadeva Goswami. And earlier, there's this verse here. Vishnu Bhakti Smrito Daivas Asuras Tad Viparyaya. One who's that Vṛtrāsura was a demon, but actually he was more than qualified as a devotee, or Mahapurusha, Mahapurusha. It's a great devotee. It's a Mahapurusha. So he's really, really great. But Prabhupada, anybody from any position, any level of society, no matter how fallen or sinful, they can all become devotees by the mercy of the pure devotee. So Indra describes that generally the demons are in the mode of passion. So it's very wonderful that although you're a demon, you've become a devotee, and you've fixed your mind on the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Of course, actually, he's a devotee of Sankarshan. Vrtrasura is like Chitraketu, they're devoted to Sankarshan. So this Indra is glorifying Vrtrasura. It makes it difficult for him to fight him because he's got so much appreciation for Vrtrasura. He's thinking, this demon is really a devotee. He's so advanced. He's so much in the mode of pure goodness. He's not influenced by passion or ignorance. The highest auspiciousness. Oh, this is a nice example here. Another example, he said, what is the use of the water in small ditches? One who is in devotional service, he swims in the ocean of nectar. What is the use of the water in small ditches? Nobody's going to go swimming in a ditch. We'll go in the ocean of nectar. So this is devotional service. And pure devotees are not attracted to anything in the material world. Wherever in the material world, the higher planets, no, it doesn't mean anything to the devotee. Before we can go back to Godhead, we have to be freed from all attraction to the material world. Before you go back to Godhead, you're offered a place. You can go to visit the higher planets. You can see the opulence of the heavenly planets. The opulence of the heavenly planets is so much more greater than anything we can imagine here. If we are drawn to the material world, we have to stay there. We'll take another birth in the material world. So if we want to go back to Godhead, we have to get rid of all of our attachments to this material existence. We just want to go, and Prabhupada talks about he wants to return to Goloka Vrindavan and associate with Lord Krishna. He doesn't even just want Vaikuntha. He wants to go beyond Vaikuntha, to go to Goloka. Any material happiness is like water in a ditch, whereas spiritual happiness is in the spiritual world like an ocean of nectar. So they spoke about devotional service, and then as a matter of duty, they again began fighting. Just amazing. And Sukadeva Goswami said they were both great fighters and both equally powerful. So Vṛtrasura took his iron club and using his left hand, he threw it at Indra. But Indra still got his thunderbolt. Now he's got the thunderbolt again. So he cuts off Vṛtrasura's remaining hand and his destroys the club which was thrown at him. So he cuts off his remaining hand. So now both arms are cut off at the shoulders, both two arms cut off at their roots. And he's bleeding profusely, and he looked very beautiful, like a flying mountain whose wings have been cut to pieces by Indra. Flying mountains. Have you seen any flying mountains before? There would be a problem for airplanes if there were flying mountains. But there are places, some places you go, you can see there's mountains, you know, all around it's just like a rice field. And then suddenly in the middle of the rice field there's this mountain. And you just wonder how this mountain could get in the middle of the rice field. It's just like it flew from some other place, it came there. I know in Chinese culture they talk about flying mountains. They have some flying mountains there. So it's here also in Srimad Bhagavatam. So definitely there were some kind of things like this. But their wings were cut by Indra. So Vṛtrasura appears like that. So then we hear what happens. Vṛtrasura had both arms cut off. Is he still able to fight? What happens? Who would like to tell us? What's he going to do now?
Yeah, he has enlarged his body and then swallowed Indra and his elephant.
Yeah, he swallows Indra. So is he able to digest Indra?
No, because Indra is protected by the Narayana Kavacha, and also with the help of his the thunderbolt weapon, he cut open the belly of the Vrtrasura and he came out.
Right, yeah. So Indra comes out of the belly of Vṛtrasura. What happened though when Indra was swallowed by Vṛtrasura? The demigods were all worried, they were all in anxiety. They thought, what a calamity, Indra's been swallowed. They thought that was the end of Indra. But because of the Narayana Kavacha, he was able to come out, and then he cut off the head of Vṛtrasura. So, who actually won the battle? Who's the victor?
Vrtrasura.
Why?
He went back to Godhead. He could return back to God.
When did he go back to Godhead?
It was said, Guru Maharaj, that although it took 360 days for Indra to cut his head, but before that itself he had entered Samadhi and he had left.
Yes, because he thought, after he swallowed Indra, he thought, that's it, I won the battle, no fighting anymore. So he sat down in Samadhi, And I don't know if he gave up his body. Huh?
Meditating on Vishnu.
Meditating on Vishnu, yeah. I don't know, does he go back to Godhead immediately? Yes?
Yoga Samadhi.
Yoga Samadhi. Yes, so either way he's a hero, right? He died either in Yoga Samadhi or he died on the battlefield. Both ways. He achieved both ways. He died a very glorious death. In Yoga Samadhi and also on the battlefield fighting. So he was able to give up his body. Okay, so Indra, he's able to cut off the head of Vrtrasura, and then they're all happy, and the demigods are all happy. All the demigods looked on. He entered the transcendental world to become an associate of Lord Sankarshan. Yes, this final verse seems to indicate that he left the body after they cut off his head. So it took like a year before he went back to Godhead, because it took them a year to cut off his head. Then when his head was cut off, then he went back to Godhead. We don't know. The living entity spark came forth and returning home back to Godhead. All the demigods looked on. He entered the transcendental world. So, alright, so anyway, the demigods are all happy because the demon is killed, right? Why is Indra not happy? What's the problem? Who knows? Why is Indra... Yes?
Krishna Maharaj, he will get the sinful reactions for killing second time. First time he was, when he killed the other guru, then that time four living entities took that papa, that sin. That is the when he killed Visurupa, ladies and water and earth and all of these took that sin. But now again he killed this Brahmana, so he was afraid that he will get the sinful reactions.
Right. He's not... There was also a difference between his killing of Vrtrasura and his killing of Vishwarup. Right? Who would like to explain the difference between the killing of Vrtrasura and the killing of Vishwarup?
By his sudden anger, actually he killed Vishwarupa. But in Vṛtrāsura case, he already knows very well that he is a Brahmana by his qualities, and surely by killing him he will get all sins. But actually the rishis recommended that we will actually conduct one Ashwamedha Yajna. By doing that we will actually come out of the sins, accumulated sins. So knowingly he killed Vṛtrāsura.
Yes, that's right, knowingly. Purposely he killed Vrtrasura. But the killing of Vishwarup was more incidental, that his anger when he saw that Vishwarup was cheating was more impulsive. Yes. So yes?
I feel mainly because of the character of Vṛtrāsura also maybe Indra is feeling more guilty.
Because of what?
Vrtrāsura's main character is a great devotee.
Because he understands he killed a great devotee. Yes, that's also there. That he killed a great devotee, and he understood he was a great devotee. So some sinful, certainly there will be more sinful reactions for that. So, yes?
Sorry, but he got the approval from Lord Narayana.
Yes, Lord Narayana had given them the weapon. He'd given them, he told them where to get the weapon, how to do it, how to kill him. So
it was also the will of Lord Narayana, right?
yes, that's true. It was also the will of Lord Narayan. But even though it's the will of Lord Narayan, it doesn't mean that you don't get sinful reactions. He still has to bear the sinful reactions. Even though he did...
Sorry, Maharaj, if it's the will of Lord Narayana, then it is the act of Lord Narayana, right? Then he's acting on the will of Lord Narayana. He surrendered soul to Lord Narayana.
But is he actually doing the killing only for the pleasure of Lord Narayan?
No.
That's the problem. Why did he kill Vrtrasura?
To save his own life.
Yeah, it's a threat to his position, a threat to the opulence of the demigods. The demons are always trying to conquer the demigods, to take away the heavenly planets, to enjoy the opulence of the demigods. So Indra he's attached to that position, to that service, that he likes to be the king of heaven. He likes to have all the facilities that he has. He's enjoying. He doesn't want to give it up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
In this case, can we just try and understand? Because Indra, in terms of safeguarding his position as a king of the heavens, it was also his duty that he should defend his position as well as protect those who are following, because they are all ultimately serving the purpose of the Lord. But they do have a facility to enjoy as a part of the service that they are doing. If Indra had realized that yes, it is that Vṛtrāsura is also a devotee, and if he would make a compromise and he would say that okay, we are not going to fight, we are going to be friends, he would be still condemned. So Indra had really no choice, whether it was by force or by the will. He had to fight, and he chose to fight.
Yes, of course he has to fight. He cannot avoid. Why?
That's what Vṛtrāsura told him. That do your duty without attachment. Come on, let's fight.
Yeah, but when you perform the duty in a detached manner, then there's no reactions, right? When you do karma yoga, there's no reactions. That's how Krishna convinced Arjuna to fight. One of Arjuna's arguments was he was worried about sinful reactions. But Lord Krishna said, when you fight in karma yoga, there's no reactions to work. So here also, they were, the encouragement with Vṛtrāsura was encouraging Indra, don't worry, just be detached, do your duty. You're not the doer. Vṛtrāsura was telling Indra like that.
Even when Indra actually appreciated Vṛtrāsura's position, and he could actually understand that Vṛtrāsura was definitely a devotee of the Lord, yet he had to kill him.
Yeah.
Even though it's actually a killing of a demon's body, not exactly the Vṛtrāsura who's the soul. So he just did the act by which Vṛtrāsura in his original position could go back to Krishna.
Yes. I mean, Indra was attacked. Vṛtrāsura was attacking him, right? And Vṛtrāsura even swallowed him. So, what can Indra do but fight back? But still, you get reactions, just like Parasuram. Lord Parasuram, he killed so many Kshatriyas. After he killed them, he had to do penances and austerities to purify himself, to make up for all the killing he'd done. And we see also in the first canto, Maharaj Yudhisthira performing Aswamedha Yagyas to counteract for his sinful reactions from the battle of Kurukshetra. So even you're on the side of Krishna, and Krishna, you could say Maharaj Yudhisthira is fighting on behalf of Krishna. It was Krishna's order. Krishna wanted them to fight. He did it. He didn't want the kingdom, but he did it. Krishna wanted. Still, sinful reactions are there. How did the sinful reactions come? What form did they take? And was it only Indra? Yes?
In the form of old lady.
Yeah, she's the personified sinful reaction, right? An old lady. What's her condition?
She was affected with leprosy.
Tuberculosis, right? She's coughing and spitting blood. Is Indra the only one to suffer reaction? Who else suffers?
Indra gave the sinful reactions to 4, including...
That was for the killing of Vishwarup.
Yeah.
What about the killing of Vrtrasura? There's nobody to give the sinful reactions for that. But other people beside Indra suffered. Who encouraged Indra to kill Vishwarup?
All the other demigods encouraged.
Yes, all the sages. The sages also, they'd encouraged Indra to kill him. They were telling him, he was worried about the sinful reactions. He didn't want to do it. But the sages said, no, it's okay. We will, how did they planned it? They said, we will do an Ashwamedha Yagya. And they said, this Ashwamedha Yagya, you can kill the whole world. The Ashwamedha Yagya will save you from the sin. Right? Is that true? Can the Ashwamedha Yagya, can it atone for all the sin? Why not?
God's mercy is the first thing.
Only by pure devotional service one can get purified. No other method.
So is the Ashwamedha Yagya not pure devotional service? Is Ashwamedha Yagya, is that not pure devotional service?
No, because it is performed for some desire.
What desire?
To get rid of the sinful reaction.
Yes. Just like the seventh offense in chanting the holy name. Namno Yashat. To commit sinful activities in the strength of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So, to commit sinful activities in the strength of chanting, that is offensive to do that. So here also, the sages, they were encouraging Indra, they were telling Indra, we'll do Ashwamedha Yagya, it will nullify your sinful reactions. That's offensive to do. Just to do the Ashwamedha Yagya to nullify sinful reactions. It's very bad mentality. So the sages also suffered because they'd encouraged Indra. In what way did they suffer? What happened to them? They were not happy. They were not happy, they were not satisfied, they were not peaceful. Although the demon is dead, they're not happy. Often, you may find like that, you do something, you don't do it proper way, you're not happy. It's the sinful reactions that's coming on them. Their sinful reaction was like that. They had to bear that sin, that no happiness, no satisfaction, just anxiety. And Indra, he had to go and do austerity. He had to enter into the stem of the lotus flower at the Manasarova lake for 1,000 years. So severe austerity he had to do for 1,000 years, and it said he was starving. Could not even get any food. The sun god is supposed to bring food, but he's in the water, in the stem of the lotus, so the sun god, the servants of the sun god, they cannot come there because they're fire. The fire cannot come in the water. So Indra was starving, great austerity for 1,000 years. He had to suffer sinful reactions. So, just for the death of one Brahmana, but not just a Brahmana, he was a Vaishnava. The example is given, it said, Prabhupada gives the example, it said, millionaire, he has hundreds and thousands of dollars. But somebody may have hundreds and thousands of dollars, they may not be a millionaire. Right? Someone may have hundreds and thousands of dollars, but they're not a millionaire. In the same way, somebody may be a Brahmana, but it doesn't mean they're Vaishnava. The Vaishnava is like the millionaire. The Vaishnava is the best of the Brahmanas. Okay, so everybody was pleased. It said initially, it seemed like everybody was pleased, everyone except Indra, and then he's chased by sin personified. Naturally, this woman, she smells horrible, and she's horrible, coughing and spitting, and just like if somebody comes by in this condition, you don't want to go close to them. So Indra was trying to get away from her. But even he went in the sky, she would come there in the sky, she was following her. Okay, so all the great sages and demigods were disturbed by the extraordinary power of Vrtrasura. They had assembled to ask Indra to kill him. Indra, however, being afraid of killing a Brahmana, declined their request. But then, and he said, how shall I free myself from sinful reactions? And the sages are saying, oh, don't fear, we'll do Ashwamedha Yagya, no problem. We'll help you, we'll protect you. And they quote, by doing Ashwamedha Yagya, please the Supreme Lord. The Lord, is he going to be pleased by this? When they talk about killing this demon, they said this demon is just giving trouble to the world. And then in the purport here, Prabhupada quotes a verse that once chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be freed from the reactions of more sins than he can even imagine performing. So, what would be the inappropriate use of this statement? Can someone tell me how this statement may be inappropriately used?
One cannot chant the holy name of the Lord and keep committing the offenses. Like we should not chant in the mood of making and get rid of the offense. The holy name should not be chanted in that mood.
Okay,
using the holy names to serve one's purpose is considered to be the real sin. So that's what actually we would be engaging, the holy name, to cleanse ourselves. That's very offensive.
But it's just once chanting the holy name.
Someone may say why we have to chant 16 rounds. I'm chanting only one time, it's said in scripture is enough.
Yeah.
People may make these kind of things.
Yeah, we may say like that, you know, that why need to chant 16 rounds? Just chant one time. So is it actually possible, one time chanting the holy name, it can destroy unlimited amounts of sins?
Yes.
If chanted offenselessly and with love.
Yes, this is an important point, that there's quality in the chanting of the holy name. There has to be the proper quality in the chanting. If the quality is not there, then it will not happen like that. One has to chant with pure loving devotion. There are stages in the chanting. It's not just any chanting of the holy name one time will destroy all the sins, but pure chanting of the holy name. When we chant with that pure love.
Yes, Maharaj. Once I heard in one lecture of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he told, in Hindi I can tell?
Yeah.
एक निशाना लगाने के लिए बहुत सारा प्रैक्टिस चाहिए.
Yeah. Translation, somebody?
अगर एक तीर लगाया है प्रॉपरली तो उसके पीछे बहुत सारा प्रैक्टिस है. वन शुद्ध नाम लेने के लिए बहुत सारा practice करना चाहिए.
What Mataji is saying, Guru Maharaj, is that in order to hit your target on the spot, like on the right spot, you need to go through a lot of practice. Then only you can hit your target.
Yeah, interesting example. Yeah. Yeah, so we have to know. It's going to take practice to chant the holy name. That's the point, right? It takes practice, so we have to practice. We're practicing. We want to hit the target. Very nice example. Thank you. Okay, so freedom for such purified devotees, freedom from sinful reactions is certainly assured. If we chant the holy name regularly, worship the deity regularly, then freedom from sinful reactions is assured. This does not mean, however, that one should intentionally commit sinful acts and think himself free from reactions. The Lord's holy name certainly has the potency to neutralize all sinful activities, but if one repeatedly and intentionally commits sins while chanting the holy name, he is most condemned. Even such sinful persons can certainly all be purified if they chant the holy name of the Lord under the direction of a pure devotee. Such purposefully devised atonements, however, cannot relieve the performer of sinful acts. This will be seen from the following verse. So, here's the problem, that they're trying to use these Ashwamedha Yagya and so on to nullify their sinful acts. But you just can't do that. That they purposely committed sins, and then they think, we'll do this yagya. Just like somebody thinks, oh, I'm going to party tonight, I'm going to drink, I'm going to do nonsense. It's okay, I'll chant more tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll chant more rounds. You can't do it like that. That's cheating. It's nonsense. Krishna will never accept that kind of chanting or that kind of devotion. So here you have Indra. He'd been told to kill this. He'd already killed one Brahmana, Vishwarup, And now it's got also Vrtrasura. Vrtrasura is the pure devotee, the best of the Brahmanas. Certainly was a Brahmana. So, sinful activities. And you can't expect you just do sins, you'll get away with it. Even if you're Indra, or if you're some demigod, you cannot do these things. And they give the example about Indra, Nahusa, who was taking the place of Indra, how Nahusa did sinful things, and he got really cursed by the Brahmanas, he became a snake. So it doesn't matter who you are, you do some sinful things, you have to really repent, you have to really be prepared to do some austerities and to atone for it. And the proper atonement, of course, is Krishna consciousness, full engagement in Krishna's service. Anyway, Indra manages to eventually, after 1,000 years, he's relieved of all reactions for his sinful deeds, and he worships Lord Vishnu. He's brought back to heaven. And then when he goes back to heaven, then they do an Ashwamedha Yagya for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That time they go back, they do it for the pleasure of the Lord. Although he committed a gravely sinful act, it was nullified. So he got free of the sin, and then at the end of the chapter you have the fruit of this pastime, hearing about Vrtrasura. We're given benedictions for people who hear. It said, one will be relieved of all sinful reactions, he will conquer all his enemies, the duration of his life will increase. Because this narration is auspicious in all respects, learned scholars regularly hear and repeat it on every festival day. So, how do we understand this in Krishna consciousness? This fruit, the fruit which is offered here at the end of this chapter. The learned are always advised to read this narration. If one does so, one will become expert in the activities of the senses. Wow! His opulence will increase. Is that good for us? You know, it was criticizing. They were criticizing opulence. They said, you have more opulence, you'll get bad qualities, you'll become proud, you'll become attached. And here we're told, we hear the story of Vṛtrāsura, we can become opulent. How should we understand this?
With opulence we can dotate to the Krishna service, and opulence we can also we can think that understanding the position of the Lord in detachment with the material opulence.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
As the statement says that therefore the learned are always advised. So the moment when we talk about the learned, one who is really understood what is Krishna consciousness can actually be defined as learned. Otherwise, what other kinds of learning wouldn't actually mean the real learning. Such kind of sages, such kind of people who repeatedly hear these narrations, and as it is said that one will become expert in the activities of the senses. So that means they know how to engage their services, their senses in the service. Rishikena Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite. So their senses becomes active for the service of Krishna. His opulence will increase, just like Maharaj Ambarish. His opulence increased. In fact, it was the Lord personally appeared there as a Sudarshana Chakra to protect him. So it was always a wonder, how is that when Ambarish Maharaj was completely engaged in the service, in devotional service, who would actually take care of his management of his kingdom and so on? But there it is very clearly mentioned that it was the Lord personally protecting him against the enemies and making every arrangement so that without any interruption, Ambarish Maharaj could actually perform his services. So that's how the opulence could be increased. And it becomes widespread, even glorified in the heavenly planets. And one will also be relieved of all sinful reactions, is referring to whatever karmas that could have been there prevalent in the previous karmas, or whatever was left out, that can all be completely vanquished. And will conquer all his enemies. So it refers that the Lord makes the arrangement so that there is no special endeavor that is needed. But in fact, to say even the enemies become the friends, that's how he actually becomes the conqueror. And the duration of the life will increase in the service of the Lord. So that's, if we take up to that move, then this narration is very, very auspicious, and it is to be heard repeatedly.
Okay. That's a nice Krishna-conscious way of looking at the benedictions which are offered. And for those who are not so Krishna-conscious, then it's simply an inducement to them to come and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And if they reach through Srimad Bhagavatam, then they can also become more Krishna-conscious. So sometimes these benedictions are given to attract people to take up devotional service and to get them to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. They like to hear, what benefit will I get? So Sukadeva Goswami is encouraging all of them, encouraging everyone, according to their particular mindset. You can understand it in different ways. Okay, are there any questions on this? We've finished the Vrtrasura section here tonight. Any questions? Yes?
Thank you very much. Maharaj, can you give us the OBA question, Maharaj?
I don't have the questions, Prabhu. Nobody gave me anything.
Okay. Maharaj, can I share the handbook to you, Maharaj? With that you can choose and tell us which one we can write.
Yes.
Okay, I'll share, Maharaj.
If you have the page there, you can just put it on the screen and I'll just read it through, yeah?
Yes, Maharaj. This is the one, Maharaj. There are 3 questions here.
Okay. But 3 questions, is it? You pick one?
Yeah. For this unit, only there are 3 questions.
Okay.
So you can ask us to write anyone or whatever.
Okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, I think the first one, understanding mood and mission. Draw 2 general principles from Indra's offending Brihaspati and the demons worshipping Sukracharya. Discuss the relevance of these principles for ISKCON devotees.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are we having class on Thursday?
Yeah, I'm checking with you, Maharaj, and that day being Nityananda Trayadashi. What do you suggest, Maharaj? Are you busy on that day?
Am I what?
Are you busy on Thursday evening, Maharaj?
No, usually, but the program I think is more in the morning here in Mayapur.
Okay, can I request devotees, what's your thought on that? Can we have the class or?
Would the devotees like a day off?
If Shivla Prabhu announced some program in the evening?
Yeah, that will be there. The program starts at 7:30 and it goes up to 9:30.
You have a program in the evening,
we
yeah.
might one hour.
So, okay, so we can have the day off. We'll have class on Monday.
Oh, okay, Maharaj.
And you can go to Nityananda, you can have the program for Lord Nityananda Trayodasi, that would be nice. Alright, and we'll begin Chitraketu on Monday.
Okay, okay, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you.
Can we compensate on some other day, Maharaj?
Huh?
Can we compensate on some other day?
Well, next week.
Okay.
Not this week. Huh?
Okay. Whenever you are free, please let us know, Maharaj, and we'll have the class that day.
Okay. Well,
Okay, and Maharaj, lastly, today is our Venkat Gopinath Prabhu's birthday. So we request you to bless him.
Oh yes. May you never take birth again, Prabhu. Right? That's a real blessing for the birthdays. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. May Krishna bless you. Hare Krishna. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki